There has been a lot of hype for New World lately. After playing the beta this last week or so, I wanted to give my first impression thoughts, sort of do a review of New World. I'm gonna try to keep away from nitpicking the small little things that I think they're gonna be able to change before the release in about a month. And instead, I'm gonna focus more of my feedback and first impressions towards core features that I don't think are gonna change anytime soon. Before I get into that, I wanna say that I'm having a lot of fun with the game. I'm gonna be streaming it almost exclusively. Like, I want to invest my time into it. I love the direction and the style that they're going with it, okay? So, as we move forward, take that with a grain of salt, because I do have a lot of feedback that I want to give, and I don't want to give off the impression that I don't like the game. I just think there's lots of different things that, if they improved, would make it way more enjoyable for me. I have a lot of points to talk about, and I saved some of the more interesting ones for the very end to make you guys watch all the way, so definitely stick around. The first thing that I want to talk about is the thing that I care the very most about, and that is the crafting and gathering. Now, why do I care so much about this? I don't know. I've always been the nerd that loves to play the market, loves to be efficient, loves to create these awesome items so that I can be one step ahead of all the other players. I'm that kind of person. I love farming items. I love farming mobs for certain items. That's just what I love about MMORPGs, and I love trading them with other players. When I came into New World, the first thing that I fell in love with was the gathering system. I love how you can gather every single item. Like, you're walking through the forest, you see a bush, you could pick that bush up and gather it. You get the point. That I don't want that to break your immersion, but you could literally go over to the bush, harvest it, and gather every single bush, every single tree, every single rock. You can mine, you can harvest, you can collect, and that makes for a really interesting and dynamic world. I love the idea of being able to walk around and totally wipe out an entire ecosystem. I think that is super cool. I love it so much that I almost want that in every single MMORPG I play now. I think it's brilliant. I've always been more of a crafter myself, right? Like, I don't want to spend my time walking around gathering usually. I want to just like buy items off the auction house, craft them, and then resell them. But in this game, it's different. I feel just as passionate about gathering as I do about crafting. What do I dislike about the gathering and crafting system right now? Well, a couple things. There are very few levels of resources to gather. There's one tree that you basically cut down until you're level 50. This means you're going to be sitting around for at least 4 or 5 hours cutting down the same level of tree before you can move up to the next level. And what I think would make for a more interesting system is if instead of going from 0 to level 50, it should be like 0 to 20. Like, every 20 levels, there should be a new resource to gather. And another thing that I really worry about when it comes to the crafting is there's a progression with every single part of crafting and gathering. Well, when you get to the end game and you've gotten the best gear on and you've been able to craft the best weapons and helmets and you've got yourself all suited up, there's literally no other reason to craft anymore, other than maybe the possibility to sell it to other players, but there's no need to craft anymore. Not until new content comes out and then you have to go and level up further or farm the new content items. The way it's set up right now is that the only crafting that is viable in the end game is consumables, potions, food, stuff like that. Let's mention combat. Ooh, combat. I have a love-hate relationship with the combat in New World. I think it is so cool that every ability and every attack feels impactful. I feel like it actually matters when I use my ability, when I use my attack, how I weave them together, my positioning. I feel like every moment in combat matters. And that's a feeling that I've been lost on in other MMORPGs specifically. I feel like in those games it sort of all blends together into this like whirlwind of damage or whirlwind of taking or tanking, and instead in this it's very precise and deliberate, and it's sort of refreshing in a way. So this also means that there's a really high skill cap for combat in New World. It takes a certain level of mastery to time your attacks, time your abilities right, because you're punished if you don't. And so when you outplay an NPC or another player in PvP, you feel rewarded. You feel like you actually beat them, and it wasn't because of your gear's just better. It's because your timing and your abilities are better. So I really like that about the combat and the way it's set up. Griff says, combat feels great in PvP, PvE feels clunky. Yeah, and that sort of leads me into my next point. Combat is very static. 95% of your abilities lock you into place during the ability animation. And that also goes for the enemy's abilities. They lock you into place when they're attacking you. Yeah, whether that's through them stunning you, knocking you down, or slowing you down, they lock you into place. And so it feels like you lose control of your character in many instances of the combat. Like I said, that's part of New World's style of combat. It's very rewarding and very punishing. What part of the combat feels clunky, especially in PvE, is it ends up sort of feeling like a turn-based combat system, where you have a 3-second window that the enemy's not going to do anything, that you can attack, and then they attack and you have to either dodge, roll, get out of the way. Because if you just attack straight through it and try to face tank it, you end up just getting stun locked or knocked down. And so there's this back and forth that goes on, and it doesn't feel fluid. It feels like, okay, it's my turn to attack. I'm locked in place as I attack you. Now I have to stop everything and move while you get locked in place doing your attack. Sort of what would fix this clunkiness where it's like a turn-based combat system is the ability to roll or dodge even in the middle of an animation, so like it cancels your animation, or in the middle of the enemy's animation. So instead of locking you down, it's sort of like they're just damaging you and you have to hurry and dodge out. Like it would feel more reactive, and it would feel like there's less downtime while you're waiting for your next opening, while you're waiting for your turn to attack. Like I'm not sure what the fix is to that, where the balance is in that. I don't know. This is sort of just like my first impressions. I don't know what they would really do to solve that, but I just felt very static a lot during the combat, whether that was during an enemy attacking me or me attacking the enemy. Let's talk about the world and how the environment is set up. First of all, I love the aesthetic. It looks so cool. You feel so cool being a pirate. You feel like a marauder in this new land, new territory, and you just feel awesome. Yeah. I don't know how to be more profound. You just feel great. Your character fits into the environment. The sound design is the best part about the environment. It sounds so good. Like when you're chopping down a tree, you feel like you're there. You feel like your axe is digging into the wood. It feels impactful. The sounds with your abilities make them sound super cool. You're like sitting there thinking about, hey, where should I go next? You're in the middle of this forest and you hear other people in the distance chopping down trees, and you hear trees falling. You hear people like banging away on rocks trying to farm them. And it feels like you are immersed in this environment where people are harvesting and people are trying to adventure and explore. The sound really just draws you in. When I was sort of like putting together this list on what I liked and disliked about the world, I started out not being able to find anything that I disliked. Like I loved every bit of the world and the environment that I was in. But then as I thought more, there actually were a couple things that stuck out to me. So while I'm trying to look at this with a critical eye, let me share with you some of the things that I didn't like about the world and the environment. Number one, the player interactions with water. It seemed like when you came to a river or when you were crossing like the beach or something, the water seemed a little ghetto. I don't know, there's no swimming in the game. You kind of just walk, you slow down in water. Even if the water's like coming up above your head, you just slow down in the water. Like you just walk on the bottom and you can drown because you can't swim. You can't like jump up to the surface and get air. You literally just die because you're walking on the bottom of the water. And in some cases, you can't even cross the water because if you get too deep, it just insta kills you. And so your interaction with water seemed kind of ghetto to me. And for it being on this island, like you crashed upon a ship, like you're a sailor, and the fact that you can't interact with water seemed a little off. I also sort of thought about it, and there wasn't very much biome diversity. This is easily going to be fixed with more content updates in the future. But I felt like there were the same trees everywhere and the same mobs everywhere. The creatures, there wasn't very much diversity in. So after a while, the areas started blending together. There wasn't any like big landmarks that would really differentiate many of the areas, especially in the starting zones. And there was also like this fog where you couldn't see super far out into the distance. At the very beginning of the game, you walk in and you look out and you can see this like huge environment, right before you go down and fight your corrupted shipmaster. Like you can see way far out. That's the only time in the game where you have this like giant overview where you see like, wow, this is huge and expansive. Like after that, you have this sort of like fog of war around you. You can't see a certain amount of distance. And what that does is it kind of makes the game feel not as grand or as epic as I want it to be. Now, maybe I'm used to sort of high fantasy style MMORPGs, right? Where everything is epic and grand, things are huge, monsters are just freaking ginormous. You're like bashing away at a dragon's toe because you're so small. In this game, that's not how it is. I think they're going for a lot more realistic approach, where the towns, the houses, everything is a lot smaller. And I don't know if I necessarily like that. I think there's something to say about having this grand, open expanse of a world with big things in it that make adventuring really fun. Yeah, I actually ended up feeling like the world was really small. Like I couldn't go very far. And instead what it made me feel like is that I was just moving extremely slow. Like you would look around you and you're like, wow, there's like a mountain, I'm going down this hillside, and then there's this little like corrupted village of zombies over here. But then you look at the map and everything is actually like squished right next to each other. What makes it feel big is how slow you're moving. And once I sort of realized that, I felt like the world itself was actually really small, and it actually kind of bothered me of how slow my character was able to traverse around the world. Now, in other MMORPGs, you have mounts, right? You have a horse or something that you can get on to move a lot faster. In this game, you don't. And instead, you have these like fast travel points. But you can't use the fast travel points all the time because it consumes a resource which I call blue juice, but it's actually called Azoth. Yeah, but it's actually called Azoth. And so you can only have like 1 or 2 teleports before you have to then go farm more of this Azoth or farm more quests to get Azoth. Now you can get Azoth pretty quickly through these quests, but you're only capped at 1,000 Azoth. So eventually you're going to be farming this blue juice all the time so that you can teleport because your character moves so slowly in this world. And that sort of brings me into my last and final point, and that is monetization. In MMORPGs, there's usually like 3 different types of monetization. There's a box cost, how much it costs just to get in and play the game. There's either a subscription cost, so you have to pay monthly to play the game, or there's like a cash shop where they sell cosmetics, sometimes pay to win like features. Usually MMORPGs are a mix between these 3 things. Now, New World has opted in to have just a box cost. So there's $30 to, currently I think it's $30 to buy New World and play it. And the second thing they're having is an in-game cash shop where you can spend real money to buy cosmetics and other things in-game. Now, one of the things that Amazon has said is that they are thinking about and kind of planning on selling the blue juice, the Azoth, that is used to teleport in the cash shop. And after realizing that they were sort of planning all along to do this, it made me realize, that's why you move so slow in the world. That's why they don't have mounts. It's because they want this blue juice to be important, so that, like, if you really want to participate in something on the other side of the world, you would have to teleport over there. And once you teleport over there, you would have to teleport back, or you would have to spend an hour slowly walking back to your original zone. They said that they've gotten a lot of feedback about the pay-to-win features that they were previously wanting to add into the game, and they decided not to do those. But the way that they've built the game is around the cash shop. They're not going to get any more money from a subscription like other MMORPGs. It's just a one-time box cost of $30 bucks to play the game. So how are they going to earn their money? How are they going to keep putting out content? Because after a while, sales are going to go down. The box cost sales are going to go down. So what I'm predicting is there's actually going to be a lot more things added to the cosmetic cash shop that are not currently being revealed right now. I think skins are going to be a huge part of it, but I think they're also going to dabble into some very small pay-to-win things. This is a topic for another video, but Amazon is not really a game studio, right? It's not like a set of developers that love MMORPGs and they're building a game like Ashes of Creation. This is a company, and while they've hired people that might care a lot about the gaming industry, what they're really gonna focus on is the money. They have a board, they have people, shareholders, that they're gonna have to report to. And we've seen how that has ruined other games in the past, and I'm just hesitant about that moving forward. Like I said, topic for another video, but those are sort of my 2 thoughts about the monetization of the game, and my first impressions of that. As a friendly reminder, I love this game. I think it's like 80% out of 100. Like, it is an amazing game. I'm more excited about this MMORPG than any of the other ones that are out right now. And that's really saying something. Like, I'm gonna play the heck out of this game. I just wanted to come and give my first impressions and be critical about it, but hopefully be critical in a good way where it can bring awareness to some things and hopefully help the devs if they ever watch it. So yeah, if you guys found this enjoyable or informational, I'm planning on making a lot of content when it comes to New World. So definitely subscribe, follow me on all the social media profiles, and as always, break a leg.